All right, everyone. So, checking out the news today, there's been some talk about uh, bark beetles in Louisiana destroying enormous amounts of pine trees. And this is a cyclical concern for the state. For those of you who aren't familiar, the southeastern United States grows an enormous amount of pine, usually on huge pine plantations, and this is used for paper making and lumber making. And that's where a lot of the East Coast wood and paper products come from. One of the major issues with these pine plantations are bark beetles. In this case, the state is concerned with two species, Ips engraver and Dendroctonus frontalis, which is the southern bark beetle, I believe it's called. I could have that name wrong, but it's Dendroctonus frontalis. And this is a recurring issue. Basically, this population goes through cycles of high infestation where it can destroy tens of thousands of acres of pine trees at once, and then it kind of disappears for a while. Both of these species are native, and states in the southeast generally have forestry committees of entomologists and plant pathologists that discuss how to control these beetles better. So right now, I forget the name of the parish, but Louisiana is having issues with this. Beauregard Parish alone, it says here, produces $700 million annually from its timber industry. And it's being slammed with these beetles at the moment. And you can see in this picture here, all of these sorts of red areas are just dead trees. So how these beetles work, they're very, very small. This is what they look like. They're very small insects, usually just a couple millimeters long, and they begin attacking unhealthy trees, and they emit pheromones at the same time. So they're kind of social, and more beetles arrive to the tree and eventually completely destroy its ability to conduct water or sugar and sap up and down the tree. They generally start infesting underneath the bark, and then they can burrow deeper and deeper in. And in the meantime, a lot of these species also transmit blue stain fungi, which can cause disease in the tree and also ruin the wood by staining it. It's a fungal disease that stains the wood blue. And then they move on to the next tree. They reproduce extremely quickly. It takes about 6 weeks, I believe, for the population to reproduce itself. And within just a small area like this, you could have millions of these beetles swarming around. So right now, Louisiana is having an outbreak of these. This happens every 10 years or so. They'll get a big population of southern pine beetles, and there's not great control strategies for this. People have been trying to control these for well over 100 years with limited success. There's a number of parasites that have been used for these, but insecticides aren't particularly useful because the beetles live inside the tree. So you can't really spray the tree or aerial spray this area. And because you're dealing with sometimes tens of thousands of acres which are infested, you can't really individually treat trees. The general consensus with this is prevention is better than a cure. What a lot of states recommend is that foresters who are growing plantations of pine need to thin the pine stands. So they need to cut out every third tree sometimes. But the issue with that is, one, if you're in a year where you don't have an infestation, you're losing a lot of money trying to thin your stand because now you're not growing as many trees. It costs money to actually thin the stand because you actually have to go in and cut down trees and then haul them out of the woods and then burn them. So a lot of people, the problem with this prevention is people don't want to do it. It's extremely time consuming. It's extremely expensive. And if you're talking about tens of thousands of acres of pine forest, no one really wants to go in there and pull stuff out. So if no one's willing to do the prevention, then there's really no treatment once you have a problem. And this will go on in cycles probably for the rest of our lives, that there doesn't seem to be a foreseeable cure for this issue. Now, this is not to be confused with the mountain pine beetle, which has been for the last 10 or 15 years causing serious problems in Colorado. And they are related. These are both these tiny skeletine weevils, these bark beetles that infest hardwood trees and pine trees. The mountain pine beetle, though, has been out of control, largely from pretty mild winters, but also because out west you have serious problems with wildfire control. And if we don't allow wildfires to burn out some of these forests, the forests themselves develop kind of a sickness. The trees themselves become old, they are frequently diseased or otherwise somehow limited in their health, and so then they become susceptible to these beetles. You have very dense forests, very dense undergrowth that really needs to be cleaned out via fire. Via human fire suppression is what's causing these sorts of outbreaks of mountain pine beetles in the West. So this is not quite the same, although a lot of these stands and forests in the Southeast would probably benefit from some wildfire, which we do suppress. Frequently, these problems are in artificial pine plantations, so not necessarily actual forests, but agricultural, silvicultural situations with the trees. So this will be a recurring issue probably for the next couple of years. This does happen on a cycle, and it takes a few years to go away. So keep an eye out on this, and you'll probably see more and more news about it. Thanks.